Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining us as we welcome in Eddie Chazan, Yisrael Fisher, Mel Zachter, good to have you, Saba, Shelley, Menachem Yamansky, Marshall Castle, Shimon Klein, Ruvain Pollack, Irving Fishbaum, Dr. Black, Barish Gessman, Dr. Guy, Yitzi Muller, Gedalia Engel, Aaron Swade, Nachman Chapler, Avram Rezepkowitz, Rabbi Kranz, Yitzi Fuchs, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Ilya Shutman, Daniel Rosenberg, Abe Arbach, David Helfgott, and Karl Hushin. Here in the shul, we have the pleasure of having with us Chaim Kramer and Rich Lenner and Michal Avram and Ruvain Shannet. It's great having all of you here. We are sponsored by Baruch Ian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Esther Bas Gittel, Avram Ben Shmuel HaKohen, by Yaakov Yamansky with Akasa Tov to the Rav and Zoom family, and Nachas from children and grandchildren, A.B. Spry from Nachas from children and grandchildren, Esala from London, Joshua Rosenberg, and Shalom Fogel, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Zeb Ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef Ben Sion Ben Yaakov Zev. The neshama should have an aliyah. We are holding at the very top of Daf Kuf Chavav Amud Aleph, very top of Daf Kuf Chavav Amud Aleph, and it's the last halacha that the Gemara says, and this case is a very interesting case. There's three brothers, Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi. Ruvain is the Bechar. In this case, Ruvain owed his father money. So we said that the halacha is like Shmuel, that in a milva, in a loan, the bechor doesn't get a double portion because it's first payable after. It was paid after death. This case is a little different, because since it was the bechor that owed the money to the father, it would be in his interest that the father should be considered as a mulzik in the loan, so that he should get a double portion. Whether we say that or not is a suffix, and therefore we split the extra portion. So again, umilva she'imai, a loan that the bechor himself owed the father, whether he gets a double portion in that loan, the double portion palgate, they split. In other words, he takes, instead of a full double portion, he says he takes a half a double portion in that loan. Now, Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav Asi, remember we said that if the boys, the other brothers, make improvements in the land, he doesn't get a double portion in that. He only gets a double portion in the shivcha de memela, in the that which happens by itself. I'm saying shir now. I'll call you later.
Oh, thanks.
He only gets a double portion in that improvement that happened by itself, like a cow that had a calf. So here, Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav Asi, Bechor shemicha, if the firstborn said, I don't want you to improve, I don't want you to improve my share, and they improve it, then Micha, then his protest is a good protest, and he will get a double portion even in the improvement that they made, because he said, don't improve it. I want to take it, and don't improve it. Now, Amar Rabba Mistavra Taima de Rav Asi, Rav Asi's allowance for him to protest and to say that then he would get a double portion is restricted by anovim ubatzrim, by grapes that they harvested, or zeisim umaskan, or olives that were pruned. Aval darchem loy. But in the event that they took grapes and they converted it into wine, there the din is that he doesn't get a double portion in the wine, because when they changed it. They took grapes and they made it into wine, and since they had no right to do it, they stole it, and therefore they only have to return like the time of the gezela, which is grapes. So again, he would only get a double portion in the grapes. Rav Yosef Amar, afilu darchan, even if they took the grapes and pressed it into wine. So the Gemara says, well, that doesn't make sense. Darcham, if they pressed it, meikara inve, initially it's grapes, ashta chamra, now it's wine. They only have to return it to the way that they stole it. They only have to give him grapes. Says the Gemara, no, here it means that if he protested and they crushed it and it spoiled, the wine turned sour, or somehow they spoiled it with the crushing it, so then he gets a double portion and he doesn't have to share in a double portion of the loss. They have to give him the damage to his grapes of a double portion. Hachanami, just like he said that elsewhere, here too, nice and like Dmei Hezek Anova. They will have to reimburse him a double portion of his grapes. Now, the Gemara just asks conversationally to give us, a lot of times when the Gemara mentions that it was said elsewhere, so the Gemara says, where was it said? That you say it was said elsewhere, as we welcome in Ari Pfefferkorn. Where was it said elsewhere? Heicha itma d'Rav Ukva bar Chama, ahod d'Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, b'charu pashit shaniach lohem aviem. If a b'char and a pashit, that means a firstborn, and another brother, their father left them grapes, ubatzram, and they vintaged it, and Rashi in the Rashbam adds the important addendum that the brother, the b'char, protested that you shouldn't touch his stuff, or zeisim umaskam, and olives, and they pruned it. B'char noito pishnayim, the b'char takes a double portion even in the improvement, because he told them not to do it. And afilu darcham, even if they pressed it and converted it into wine. So the Gemara asks, but if they converted it into wine, then it was ishtani, they stole it, and they only have to return grapes. Why should he get the improvement in the wine? Meikara inve hashta chamra, initially it was grapes and now it's wine. No, it means litin like demei hezek anovav, that if they crushed it and they did damage to it, so then they have to reimburse him a double portion for his grapes. Now, the issue that the Gemara deals with now, all the way until the next Mishnah, is when does a firstborn acquire his double portion? So the Pashut way of looking at it is that the lashon of the pasuk is a lashon of matana. Right? The pasuk says laseis loy pishnayim, to grant him a double portion. Now, granting a double portion is a matana, and a matana you only have when you receive it. The other way to say is that it says that his father awards him a double portion, so that it's straight from the father, the second portion. So he gets it even before they make a division. Now, why should this make a difference? So let's see how it develops in the Gemara. Amar Rav Asi, B'chor shenotal chelek kapashet. If, let's say, there's two brothers, Reuven is the Bechor, and Shimon, and Yaakov had many assets. And when dividing one field, Reuven divided it equally, giving himself and his brother an equal share. So at least when it came to this field, he forgave and he gave up his privilege of taking a double portion. The question is, the fact that he looked away from his double portion in that field, is that an automatic statement that he's giving up the double portion throughout the estate? So on that we have a machlokes. Amra. On that we have a machlokes. Amar Ravasi. B'chor shenoitel chelek kapashet. Reuven, who divides a field, one part of the estate, and he takes an equal share with his brother. He doesn't take a double portion. Viter, he has forgiven, and he has gave up his right to the firstborn right, to the double portion. The question is, how extensive is that which he gave up? My vita. Rav Papa Mishmei de Rav Amar. Rav Papa says in the name of Rav, vita ba'isasad. He only gives up in that field. While Rav Papa Mishmei de Rav Amar, Rav Papa says in the name of Rava, vita b'chala chasim kulam. He has given up and he has forgave his double portion in the whole estate. Now, at the root of this is what I told you. Is his portion his even before it was awarded? Rav Papa Mishmei de Rav Amavita Ba'isasada, he only gives up in that field because Kasavar Ein Loi LeBechor Kaidem Chaluka. He doesn't have a double portion before it's given to him. Because the pasuk says, it calls it a gift, and a gift is only yours when it's given to you. So, therefore, that field that was granted, on that he was Michael. Idach, the other parts of the state, it wasn't awarded to him. So, lo yachal, it's not his to give up as yet. While v'rapapi mishmei derabam avita b'chalan eschasim kulam. When he looked away from his double portion in this field, he looks away in the entire estate. Why? Because he holds yesh loi lebechor koidem chaluka. The bechor has a right, because the pasuk says the lashon of the pasuk is that it's granted from the father. The exact lashon of the pasuk it says that the father the father gives it to him. In other words, it's a coming from the father immediately at the time of death. And therefore he has it already. And the fact that he gave up his double portion on part of this estate reveals that he's giving it up on the whole estate. In the entire estate. The Bechor has a right to his double portion even before it's doled out. And since he agreed to divide equally the field, achal bikulu, that means that he looked away and he forgave the double portion in the entire estate. So here we have a machlokes between Rav Papa and Rav Papi on what Rava held. Now, so what did they do? They took different notes in the shir. Somebody got distracted by a phone. I mean, what somebody had to go out to the bathroom. I mean, what happened? This disagreement between Rav Papi and Rav Papa on what Rava said is not that they each were saying that Rava said their perspective statement. Ela mechlala itmar. It was rather an inference. Dahul Bachar, there was a firstborn. The Ozel Zavin Nichse Didei Udapasha. Here, Ruvain took too much license. Yaakov died, and Ruvain was the firstborn, and he had a brother Shimon. And Ruvain went ahead, like older brothers a lot of times do, and he sold the field without permission from his brother. Right? He sold the whole field. So he went and he sold the field. That was Yerusha. So he sold his part and his brother's part. Now, in the meantime, unfortunately, Shimon died. The orphans, thinking that their uncle Reuven had no right to sell their father's field, so Ozel Yasmei B'nai Pashat, the orphans of Shimon, went Lameichel Tamrei. They went into their Zayda's field, even though it was sold. It was sold to rich. But even though it was sold to rich, they went into the field and they ate the dates because they felt that Reuven had no right to sell their portion. So Machinu Lekuchais, Lameichel Tamrei Mehano Lekuchais. They went ahead and they ate dates from that which Rich bought. Machanu. Rich took a stick and knocked them away. Rich doesn't mess around. Rich doesn't. You should see the glee in his eyes. Rich were orphans. Come on, right? Machanu. He took a stick. Yeah, listen. He paid dineros for this field, and he took a stick and said, "Look, he had a big beware of dog sign on the property and no trespassing." So he took a stick and knocked them away. So the relatives of the orphans, they went to Rich and they said, Imrelu Krivim, it's not enough to zavintu l'nichsayu, that you bought their property, their part, without their father's permission. Ela mimcha nami machisalu, you're also hitting them? Oh, Rich, come on. So they went to Rava. Rava was a Paisik Achrain. So also the Kami de Rava. Amalahu, so Rava said, and this is the ambiguity. Rava said, Loi asa v'loi klum. What he did, what Reuven did by selling the property was meaningless. The sale to Rich was meaningless. It was never divided. Couldn't sell it. The question is, what about his firstborn portion? Remember, we said there's one opinion that the firstborn portion is his at the time of death. So that he could be able to sell. So says the Gemara, klum b'palga. One holds that what Reuven did was meaningless, of course, to selling Shimon's share, and even to selling half of his own share. In other words, his regular share, because he doesn't get that until they divide it. But he had the right to sell his double portion, because that's his from the death of the father. No, he didn't even have the right to sell his second portion, because it's a gift, and a gift is not yours until it's given to you. So now, Sholchu mitam. Remember, we said that when it says mitam, it means from Eretz Yisrael. The Babylonian Gemara refers to it. Sometimes it says b'marava imrei, they said in the west, because Eretz Yisrael was to the west of Bavel, and sometimes it says Sholchu Mitam, from over there. The Babylonian Talmud says from over there, from Eretz Yisrael. B'chor shemachar kodim chaluka, a firstborn that sells before it was divided, lo yasa klum, it's nothing. In other words, even he has no right to sell even his firstborn portion, his double portion. Alma ein loy b'chor kodim chaluka. However, that's not the halacha. Even though they sent it from Eretz Yisrael, v'hilchas yesh lo b'chor kodim chaluka, he has a right before it is divided, and his firstborn portion. Now, listen to this psak. It's a pretty strict psak. Marzutra miderishba. Now, that when it says marzutra miderishba, it's coming to differentiate. This is not the famous marzutra all over Shas. There's another marzutra from a place called Rishba. Marzutra miderishba, he was a firstborn. Polag bitsana de palpale, he divided a basket of peppers. Bahade achin, with his brothers bishava, equally. He didn't take a double portion. Wow. Comes along Rav Ashi, also the Kami to Rav Ashi. Amalei, his firstborn is his from the time of his death. And since Hayel Vitarta B'Mixas, since he forgave equally with his brothers the basket of peppers, Vitarta B'Chalan Achasim Kulan, he gives up his double portion of the entire estate, and he's saying that he's ready to divide like a regular brother. Very big chiddush. What? Well, again, since that's the halacha, he has to be very careful. That's why. Could I trouble you for a glass of water? Now, basically, yeah, if you're in South, you could use this glass. Watch the wire. So we know you can't be masna mashkas b'Torah. The Torah says something, you can't stipulate against the Torah. So therefore, by Yerusha, a person could not say that his daughter should inherit him when he has a son, because the Torah says if there's sons, the daughter doesn't inherit. He could give a gift from life. He could say that I'm making a last will testament, that I'm giving a gift that to my daughter, that he could do. But if Yerusha, he can't do, because that's mas now mash kos b'Torah. So let's see the Mishnah inside. Ha'omer, if a man says, Ish plini b'ni b'char, my firstborn son, lo yito pishnai. He shouldn't take a double portion. No, I want him to inherit equally. Or Ish plini b'ni, or this son, lo yireshim achiv. He's a bad boy. Lo yireshim achiv. He shouldn't get Yerusha with his brothers. Lo yamaklum. That he can't do. Torah says all sons inherit. The Torah says a bechor gets a double portion. If he's saying it mitam Yerusha, then he can't. Thank you. Is this cold water?
Yes, no, it's from the refrigerator.
Thank you. So lo yamaklum shehisnal masha kos b'Torah, because he stipulated against what it says in the Torah. However, hamachalik nechosav al piv, if he's doing a matna shchiv mira, and he's giving gifts, riba le'achad, giving more to one son, umiyat le'achad, and giving less to another son, or v'hishvala and mesa b'char, or saying that the b'char should get equal to all the other brothers and not a double portion. Dvar kayam, he could give a gift, But v'imam mishum Yerusha, but if he says it should be an inheritance, you can't change the laws of inheritance. Then lo yamaklum. Let's say in the document, it sometimes uses the word Yerusha, but sometimes uses the word gift. Says the Mishnah, Kos of bein betchila, bein be'emtza, bein be'seif. In the tzava, if it says whether in the beginning, in the middle, or the end, mishum matana, it's a gift, varav kayam. Then it's good, because then it's not being masna mashakos b'Torah. He's showing that he's giving a gift, mechayim, but not Yerusha. Now, not everybody holds that you can't be masna mashakos b'Torah. It's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that when it comes to monetary matters, you could stipulate against what it says in the Torah. This din of Rabbi Yehuda is if a man says, we'll give Marshall a break over here. Chatzkel is old cheapy. And that's only because we saw that Chevy is in the house, so we have. But we'll give him a pass. Chatzkel is a cheapie. He wants to mekadesh his sweetie Suri. He says Suri, Hari at mekadeshes li almanas she'ein li bach she'er ksusa v'inasa. Real nice guy. Right? The Torah says that you have to pay she'er ksus v'ina. Right? That's food, clothing, and marital relations. He says, you mekudeshes to me on the condition that I don't have these obligations. So Rameya says she's mekudeshes, and his t'nai is batal, because he's masna mashkas b'Torah, and you can't stipulate against what it says in the Torah. Rabbi Yehuda says that he doesn't have to give her clothing and he doesn't have to give her money. Intimacy he has to give her, because intimacy is not a material thing, it's not money. But money, you could stipulate against what it says in the Torah. Now, if that's the case, so the Gemara wants to say, our Mishnah is not going according to Rabbi Yehuda, because Yerusha is money. So now let's see the Gemara inside. Lema masnis in the like Rabbi Yehuda. Let's say our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda, ha'amar b'davar shel mammon, when it comes to monetary matters, t'nai kayim. The stipulation is upheld. The Tanya, if a man says to a woman, Ariyat Mekudeshes li, you Suri are Mekudeshes to me, Almanasha ein loch alai sher ksus v'ina. You don't have any claim for food, clothing, or intimacy. Harizu Mekudeshes, she's engaged, u'tanoi batal, and his stipulation is null. It's ignored. Because you can't stipulate against what it says in the Torah, and he has to give her the food, the clothing, and the intimacy. Rabbi Yehuda says, "B'davar shel mamayin," when it comes to money, t'nai kaim. So therefore, when it comes to money, t'nai kaim l'chayra. In our Mishnah also, when it comes to money, which is Yerusha, his stipulation should be valid. Says he or no. You see. In the case of Rabbi Yehuda, Suri agreed. So where Suri agrees, there Rabbi Yehuda says you could stipulate against what it says in the Torah. By the Yerusha, the Bechor doesn't agree that he shouldn't get a double portion. One son doesn't agree that he should get less than the other son. So the Gemara makes a chilek. Afilu Tamer Rabbi Yehuda, awesome, by the food and the clothing, Yada, Suri knew about it, become achla. But hacha like kamachal. Here, the Bechor isn't Michael his extra portion. The son isn't Michael that he shouldn't inherit with his other brothers. So there, even Rabbi Yehuda agrees that you can't stipulate against what it says in the Torah. Now, missing Shalom Fogel already 2 days in a row. I know he has sometimes a lot of weddings. Missing Gaby Spry for a while. Baruch Ian isn't here tonight either. We're missing a lot of people tonight. I know. But the only thing is, you're hitting the wrong place. I wouldn't have said that, but I saw that's what Mark was thinking. So, but anyway, Mark was also missing last night, right, Mark?
Yes, Rabbi. I was actually helping make a Shiva minion, and I might be out tomorrow too. So I'll get you a note.
Well, listen, if it's for make a Shiva minion, you should try to get somebody else. That's the rule, unless it's somebody that's going to be insulted. But otherwise, the rule is if it's a mitzvah she'efshar la'asos al yedei acherim, you get somebody else to do it, and you don't miss your learning. I always say that if Tomchei Shabbos calls you up and say, we need you to deliver a package at 8 o'clock. So you say, look, my name is Franco. Were you up to F? Could you call, an L? Could you call the Lustigs? Could you call the Murmelsteins? But if there's nobody else, then you have to close your Gemara and do it. Right? That's what's tricky about learning. Right? Because Gadol HaTalmud she'Talmud mevi alidei Maisa. So anyway, see if the Zembrowskis could do it, or, the Solkowitzes, or the Sternbergs. You know what I mean? Now.
Mark, you got to use the excuse shalom bias. It works every time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Marshall knows I have a soft heart, But, the only thing is that Marshall's nose gets long when he says it. So, anyway. I have to tell you the purity of some of my married daughter-in-laws. We were eating at the Yom Tov table. My wife made a delicious dish of spinach. So one of the children says, "What's this?" So I forgot who at the table said, "It's Popeye's favorite food." And it's Popeye's favorite food. And one of my daughter-in-laws says, "What's a Popeye?"
She didn't say olive oil?
No, it's really, we still have people with a certain amount of purity. It's really something. Yeah, but even then, they would. You have to have a certain purity. These girls are already 36, 37. They have
What's this world coming
certain purity. Yeah, I mean, Popeye, that should be our biggest problem, Popeye. Yeah. Popeye and Casper, yeah. I go back even further than that. I go back to Gigantor and Speed Racer. Astro Boy, I don't remember. But anyway, so now the Gemara says starts an interesting discussion. The Torah gives the father a right to identify a son as a firstborn. Let's say they came from Russia And we don't know. The Torah says Yakir, that he could say that this boy was a firstborn. Now remember, only a firstborn from the father gets a double portion. A firstborn of the mother doesn't get a double portion. So now, Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Ish Ploini B'ni B'chayri, if a man said, so-and-so is my firstborn son, who noitel pishnai, then when the father dies, he gets a double portion. If he just said Ish Ploini B'charu, that Ruvain is a firstborn, ain't a noitel pishnai. Why? Dilma Bucher De'ima Kama. Maybe it was just the firstborn of the mother. Firstborn of the mother doesn't get a double portion. Haud, now the Gemara tells us a related case. Haud also the Kami de Rabba Babachana. A person came before Rabba Babachana, Amalei, and he said, and together with another witness, he said, Muchzakani bezeh, I know that this son, he wasn't the father. He just said, I know this son, Shul Bechar, that is the firstborn. Amalei, so, you know, and here you have to be a skilled Rav. Normally, if two witnesses came and say he's a firstborn, so you accept their testimony. So, but Rabbi Babachana didn't take it so easily. Amalei said to him, Mino Yodis, how do you know? How do you know? Davikarli Avu Bukhra Sichla. There was a phrase, you silly firstborn. You know, a firstborn, I'm a firstborn. A firstborn has why does a firstborn get a double portion? A firstborn has a very big responsibility. A firstborn is a trendsetter. You know, a very good example of this, as we welcome in Richard Rosenzweig, a very good example of this is in my family. I went and set the trend. I went into an out-of-town yeshiva, and I went to a very learning-intensive yeshiva of Staten Island. And because of that, my brother Yosef Asher went and would end up marrying the Rosh Yeshiva's daughter, Rabbi Reuven Feinstein's daughter. And my brother Yisrael went. And my brother Yitzchak went. And because of that, of course, my grandson, my son Nehemiah went, my brother's children went, and now there are grandchildren in the yeshiva. And that's an example of a firstborn being a trendsetter. And a lot of times the kind of girl that the firstborn marries is also trendsetter. Now, if the Bechar doesn't do his duty, so then he's referred to as a foolish Bechar because he's setting a bad example. So Rabbi Babachana said to the aide, how do you know that he's a Bechar? Because he used to be referred to as the foolish firstborn. Well, how do you know that it's the firstborn of the father? Dilma Bucher De'imu. Maybe it's the firstborn of the mother. The Kol Bucher De'ima, because even if he's the firstborn of the mother, Nami Bucher Sichra Karole. And indeed, that's the way it was. And therefore he said, your testimony is not a sufficient testimony. Now here, on the other hand, the Gemara tells us a very interesting testimony. This is a fascinating thing. The saliva of a firstborn has therapeutic properties. It's really a really interesting thing. For eye ailments, the saliva of a firstborn has therapeutic properties. But not only that, it's only the firstborn of the father, not the firstborn of the mother. So now, says the Gemara, Hahuda Asla Kamid Reb Chanina, a man came before Reb Chanina, Amalei, he told him, Muchzakani Bezeh, I am confident that this one Shu B'char. So Amalei, so he said to him, Mino Yodis, how do you know? How do you know he's a B'char? Amalei D'chiyava Osu L'gabe Yavua, when people would come to the father with an eye pain, Amalahu, he would say, Zilu L'gabe Shikras Bri, go to Shikras, my son, the Bruchahu, he's a firstborn, Umase Ruke, and his saliva heals the eye ailment. Says Gemara, V'dilma Bucher de Imahu, maybe he's a B'char of the mother. Says Gemara, Gemire, we have a tradition that Bucher de Abba, only the saliva of a firstborn of the father, Masei Ruke, the saliva is healing. Bucher de Ima, the saliva of a firstborn of the mother, Loi Masei Ruke, its saliva is not healing. Okay, Rabbi say, we'll stop over here. You know, I've been lax. I can't believe it. We have our Chumash here on Noyach tomorrow, and I have not asked for a sponsor. So as of now, we do not have a sponsor for what really is the first main Chumash year of the cycle. I did for the Shabbos table on Bereshis, but a full Chumash year, this is the first full Chumash year of the new cycle. So anybody who wants to take the schus of being the first sponsor, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Text me or email me. Again, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. It's pretty late to be saying that, but I didn't realize.
You should auction it off.
We now are going to do the Mishnayos.
Does that work, does that still work great, the firstborn saliva?
I don't know. We have a klal in medical stuff, nishtanu ativim, that natures have changed. We don't rely on the Gemara for medical advice.